freshly landed from Helsinki, and where he works as director at Nokia Design. So, but he's not going to do yet another Nokia Design talk. He'll provide us with a new perspective or different perspective on what foresight might be. So please welcome Francesco Cara.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you for the organizers of LIFT. What I prepared for you for the last session of the long afternoon before the closure is a relatively visual presentation, but also quite conceptual. As I was preparing the material, it was becoming more and more conceptual, so I hope you will bear with it for the next 20 minutes or so. What I'm going to talk about is a way of looking at innovation from a historical perspective. And the source of inspiration is a world, absolutely one of the leading psychologists in the world, Jean Piaget. I was lucky to study here in Geneva psychology at the school that Piaget developed here. And this experience has been a very sort of important experience shaping my way of thinking as well as that of many, many others. Jean Piaget developed a theory of knowledge called the genetic epistemology that essentially looked at every stage of knowledge as being one in a sequence of stages of knowledge. The second very important concept was that action was the key to move from one stage to the next. And another extremely important concept was that of abstraction, reflective abstraction, empirical abstraction. That is that to move from one stage to the next, we need to conceptualize one way or another the stage at which we are to move into the new stage. So I think that as a very indirect analogy to innovation, there is something to learn from this way of looking at things. So what I will do now is take you through a number of stages in the development, evolution of some of the Nokia products. But Nokia here is just a case. For me, it's a case study, even though I work there and get my salary there. I have a few goodies for you here, and I will mention them. This one is mine. The first point I want to make is that when we look at the mobile telecommunication world as an ecosystem, we can identify at least three big stages using this stage idea. The first stage here is essentially the stage of a closed system where we had in many countries networks that interoperated under the GSM standards, and then mobile phones that would sit perfectly within those systems. Around in the ecosystem, there were clear actors. Some of the actors were like us, phone manufacturers, network manufacturers. There were other actors, mobile operators clearly. There were regulators. And around each of these actors, a number of other actors. Around 2000, we had the first wave of internet on mobile internet with a WAP format. And this is actually the second illustration. The second illustration says, well, now we have essentially the same sort of device, but we sit this device in a different ecosystem. We see new players coming in, and these players are the content providers. The ecosystem itself changed. As we know, that was not a real stage of development. Somehow the system didn't self-organize to leverage the capabilities of that, of those technologies and those businesses. And the only case we have where that really happened is Japan with Docomo and KDDI. The third is actually our current state, and is a very interesting one because in our industry we've all moved into convergence, which means essentially living in the same ecosystem with media companies, with fixed telecom companies, with a number of new actors coming into the system. If you look at only the regulator scenes, we see new regulators emerging to regulate that new ecosystem. Now, I would like to take you through 3 generations of Nokia phones. Each of these generations illustrate one of these ecosystems, and we will see at how the device sits in the ecosystem. The maps I'm going to show have been developed between the summer and the end of last year with the Media Lab here at the École Polytechnique in Lausanne by Jeff and Wang and his team at the Media Lab. The first map refers to a great Nokia classic, this one, 8890. So we are talking of 1999, 2000. And this is the information architecture of the phone. As I was arguing before, what you see is very few links to the world external to the mobile phone and the network. These are the yellow segments. These are doors between the device and the ecosystem around it. Most of them go towards the operator. The second, just a word on the visualization. Oh, sorry, this was the wrong button. Each color designates a different application and functional area. So here we have the settings. Here we have the calling functions related. The second phone is a beautiful history. It's a 6108, which was named Libai. The code name for the product is a product for the Chinese market, launched around 2003, and it has a hand recognition pad with really very powerful translation capabilities, and it was a great success in China. As you see, there are many more yellow segments. And the yellow segments represent the way this product sits in a different ecosystem, which is the WAP ecosystem at the time. There is a very interesting case here, which is the Q instant messaging client delivered with this phone. So here we really see a direct connection between a larger ecosystem and the previous GSM ecosystem, and this device sitting in a different environment. The third example is the N95. So it's the product we analyzed was from beginning 2007, and as you see, there is a growing complexity. But what is most interesting for this case is that we see that there are some of the applications in the phone that open directly to the ecosystem. So when I open my Maps application, actually I'm going into the larger ecosystem. When I use my photo applications, for some of the branches, I connect out to the external ecosystem. I hope the point is clear enough. Let's continue a little bit. So what we did to try to understand how we should express better the bridges that exist between those devices and this new ecosystem, we ran through a study, a benchmark study. And this is the way we analyzed it. The case is the iPhone. So what we looked was the information architecture at the top of it, and yellow indicates that these elements are bridges, doors towards, let's call it, the internet. And then we looked at the idle screen, the main initial page. We looked into the main menu and some of the applications, including the browser. Looking at it, we came at the conclusion that actually the way the user was connecting to the cloud through this interface was essentially equivalent to a desktop metaphor. The only difference being that some of the applications were local and some of the applications were remote. Then we looked at HTC, the touch product from HTC that runs with Windows Mobile 6. We did exactly the same analysis, and what we observed here was actually that the big difference was a very dynamic home screen, and so we called it the portal metaphor. Portal metaphor because when out of a box you open it, you start getting information from your blogs, from your instant messaging, from different widgets, weather, etc. And then what we see is that some of the other applications, doors to internet, are buried in the information architecture. We used a metaphor, I go back once, I don't know whether you are familiar with Italian waters, but Ferrarelle has been always marketed as a slightly bubbly water, while instead Perrier is world renowned for the richness of its bubble and the strength of the sparkling water drinking experience. So we used this as a way of classifying different ways of connecting devices with the internet. Now, if we look at the current situation as we see it, we see essentially 5 metaphors. So one class of metaphor is essentially what we call enabled. It means that I don't change my mobile phone in any dramatic way. I just provide some of the tools and features needed to use it to access the internet. And then another case is represented by the BlackBerry, a very well structured, very well organized space, and this space is dedicated to connecting, so it's like a specialized door. And then if we look here, we have the Sony Ericsson case. The Sony Ericsson provides a number of different ways to connecting to internet. Then we have the desktop metaphor used by Apple and this dynamic portal metaphor used by HTC with Windows Mobile 6. As Nokia, we position ourselves here for some of our products and here for some of other products like the N95. So we're trying to open different windows and play this connecting to the larger ecosystem through multiple channels. Now, if we look at it, I don't know what is your impression, but when I look at this thing, I'm depressed. I'm depressed because I don't see any real new way to bridge in a meaningful way, in an adapted way, our mobile devices with this larger ecosystem. We are essentially relying on very old metaphor. This is the metaphor from the mobile space. We have a desktop metaphor, which is essentially from the PC space. We have this thing, which is cows, so it's a bit difficult to consider that this will really support people in discovering this new ecosystem. We have some cases here which are very PC-like, and then we have something which is an inspiration from the existing internet, fixed internet experience. So somehow we lack some new metaphors, some new ways of thinking and structuring our connection to the internet space through mobile devices. Now, I read a lot about innovation. It's something that interests me a lot in the history of technology. And in general, definitions of innovations are pretty heavy. I like this one. I like this one because there is the fresh word. And I think that foresight is essentially, should be a way for us to think afresh, to look at things in new ways, in different ways. I don't think that we should even try to anticipate or imagine the future. I think that we build the future in interaction. I go back to this constructivist idea of Jean Piaget. I think that what we really need is to use our powerful methods and ways of trying to understand what the future prepares for us for fresh thinking. Since I've been doing well and the light is still green, I will take you through a little example that makes this freshness thinking concrete. Again, it's history of technology. We're talking 1992, 1994, and this is a story told very well in this book, Piloting Palm, Butter and Pogue, 2002. And this is essentially the story of how the Palm Pilot came about. So we are in this period of time. There is a market recognized for PC, essentially desktop PC at the time, and there are people who don't want to have desktop PC in their homes. And so the big idea is to go with a smaller PC that people who don't want to have the big machine, the big box in the house, will immediately adopt. And running into this race, there were the likes of Apple with the Newton and ATT, and this company, a joint venture funded on GeoWorks with Keijo and Tandy as partners. And at this time, what we were looking for was a small version of a PC that people could carry with them, but that had a lot of functionality, and the reference size was a paperback book. If you look at the definition, so this is the brief that was given to GeoWorks in particular to develop this product with Casio, etc. This was packed with features and functionality. So there was CompuServe at the time, there was a QuickBook from Intuit, there were a number of softwares installed in this little machine. In this case, about 20,000 units were sold across the United States in the first about 6 months from launch. I think that the strike of genius here came from Jeff Hawkins, who later created Palm and is absolutely genius. What he did, he went back to the 20,000 people and said, why did you buy it? How do you find it? What do you use it for? How could this be improved? And what he found out, actually, that all these people had a PC. So the target was completely wrong. And what he discovered was that actually what they really wanted was something with which they could take their data with them and input new data to bring them back to the PC. Okay? That was fresh thinking. You know, all of a sudden, you have all the elements to see that this is not the right story. And you can look for a new story. And this is the new story. This is the page from the Palm site that reproduces the history of Palm. And here is the brief. It's a great brief. We would love in Nokia to write briefs so crispy and so valuable for people. Palm desires to build and market the world's best handheld organization. The key word here is accessory to your desktop PC. So by this switch, they opened a new space, the space for accessories to PC, rather than trying to go for complementary products. And what they did, by the way, in this process, they created what I personally consider one of the reference cases for user-centered design, starting with not being shy and go and look into why the first product didn't go, and survey people, interview people, understand what they were doing with this. And from that, clearly, you need inspiration and you need creativity to put the pieces together again. So I think I'm almost done. My point is that we are in the relationship between mobile devices and other devices and the new ecosystem that we have around us at one of these key moments where a new metaphor could emerge and could redefine in very fundamental ways the way we interact. Thank you very much.